Hi everyone, welcome back to my class series on scientific foundations of health. This class is on creation of healthy and caring relationship. I am Dr. Prasad Puthiyillam. In this particular class video, I'm covering the topics like building communication skills, friends and friendship, education, the value of relationship and communication, relationships for better or worsening of life, understanding of basic instincts of life, changing health behavior through social engineering. All these classes are available in my YouTube channel, My Intuition. Please do subscribe to my YouTube channel and support me. So the first topic, that is building communication, the main heading, building communication skill, in which first one comes the listening. Listening is one of the most critical aspects of effective communication, as we know, and having strong listening skills will help us process important information and build interpersonal relationships. It can also help us understand the tasks or projects, resolve the conflicts, and connect with the people both in the workplace or otherwise. Then effective types of listening, when we say, there are many types like comprehensive listening, discriminative listening, empathetic listening, critical listening, appreciative listening, and full listening. Okay, so one by one we'll see effective type of listening. If I say, most often the people may naturally gravitate towards one listening style or another, but each of these listening skills is useful depending on the situation. When we are aware of these different listening styles, it will make us more effective communicator and help prevent the miscommunication. So we can also identify the one we often employ and discover new types of to improve our listening skills. And the main types are given listed out here. First one, the comprehensive listening. Comprehensive listening is listening to learn the content, also known as the informational listening. We listen to the comprehend and absorb the information presented. This type of listening is commonly used in day-to-day lives, where we would use comprehensive listening along with the verbal cues to understand the message being communicated. This listening style requires a concentration and a conscious effort to understand. In comprehensive listening, we should distinguish the main point or idea from the details. While attending a presentation or lecture, this is the most critical listening skill we need to have. When two different people listen to the same message, they understand its meaning differently. A significant reason is that comprehensive listening involves cognitive skills, where people may interrupt and understand the meaning of a message based on their knowledge, their outlook, and experiences. To improve comprehensive listening, we have to work on our vocabulary, language skills, knowledge, and cognitive skills. Second one, that is discriminative listening. This type of listening, it identifies the variation in tones and sounds. It interrupts the verbal cues to understand what the speaker is truly saying. The nuances in their voice will help us to distinguish what emotion they are going through. The discriminative listening is a basic type of listening skill developed quite early on in life, where different sounds of the words are recognized without understanding their meaning. For example, if our client speaks in a foreign language that we have difficulty understanding, but we can use a discriminative listening skills to comprehend what is going on to some extent based on their tone, their mannerism, or the body language. Third one, that is empathetic listening. Empathetic listening, it is a way of listening for emotional support and improves the mutual trust and understanding. Listening with empathy means that it means that we place ourselves in the speaker's situation. A, a major quality of empathetic listening is to give support and encouragement rather than advice or criticism. This type of listening will help us to learn about a person's perspective regardless of how different it is from our own. The counselors and other professionals use empathetic listening to understand and help their client. In this type of listening, we do not make unnecessary judgments or we never offer advice. Or instead, we gently encourage the speaker to describe and elaborate on their emotions and feelings. An example would be when a customer expresses dissatisfaction with the product, we can use empathy to ascertain how we might feel in their position, and understand how their expectation were not met. Then fourth one, that is critical listening. Critical listening is it is a listening to scrutinize or analyze the idea being expressed. Here we make a mental judgment based on what the other person is saying and evaluate the trustworthiness of the message and speaker. This type of listening involves more active listening, and it usually includes some sort of decision making or problem solving. Then we listen critically. We examine the facts and compare the message presented with the knowledge we may already possess about the subject, and then from our interpretation to it of it. Usually, a journalist does critical listening as part of their profession. Then appreciative listening. Appreciative listening is when the listener seeks a certain information which they will appreciate since it meets their needs or goal. We may listen appreciatively to good music, a podcast, or an inspiring speech of a great leader. This type of listening will make the speaker feel valued and appreciated. For example, if a co-worker is giving a presentation, we can use eye contact and nodding to show that we are listening intently. Sixth one, that is full listening. Full listening happens when we pay careful attention to what the other person is saying. In this type of listening, we aim to understand the entire content that the speaker wants to convey. This may be a very active form of listening, where we may pause for summarize or paraphrase to ensure that what we understood was correct. When the conversation is concluded, the speaker and we may probably agree that we have fully understood the content of the conversation. Full listening is a useful skill to have when trying to understand a lecturer or a lecturer's presentation. Then what are the importance of effective listening skills? Listening skills they will play a crucial role in effective communication at every organization level. It is essential to be aware of which listening type is required in each situation. Good listening skills play an important role in effective communication. It promotes a better understanding of people, enhances relationships, and reduces conflicts. So it is essential to focus on improving our listening skills to be more effective employees and co-workers. Here are some reasons why we need to improve our listening skills. Good listening skills, they play important role in effective communication. It promotes a better understanding of people, enhances the relationship, and reduces the conflicts. So why we need to improve our listening skills? That is to understand a person's message and perspective fully. It help us instantly connect with the people, as most people like an empathetic listener. Strong listening skills are crucial when networking, having a rapport with our coworkers, and especially when we try to win our clients. It helps in building deeper personal and professional relationships. Good listening is needed to ensure customer satisfaction and improve productivity. It is less likely that we will make mistakes when we have listened and comprehend the necessary information. Listening leads to more brainstorming and sharing of information, leading to more creative and innovative work. An active listener can resolve the conflict which arises from miscommunication. Now, it is a verbal communication skill which are more important than ever. Countless meetings, presentation, the code reviews, conferences, and networking events mean that clear and assertive verbal communication, it is essential for a current and future job. Good communication skills can be the difference between getting a promotion or moving laterally, selling our product, or struggling with a slow growth, or influencing colleagues with our ideas, or doing what we are told. Importance of communication skills. Communication skills are important in many aspects of our life and career, including the managerial role, in which oral communication skills are essential for many areas of management, to command respect from our colleagues while building a strong culture and team spirit, to deal with an unexpected crisis and communicate our action plan to our team, etc. Managerial role essential. Workplace success, the oral communication skills are required to while we talking to our clients, customers, talking in team meetings, requesting information, giving feedback and discussing problems. A strong communication skill is required to understand clearly without any misinterpretation. Then secure a new job. Job providers want new employees to be able to speak consciously and confidently. Then advance to our career, advancement in our career, it is important to be able to communicate our thoughts on how the process, the products or service can be improved. Business values these skills in management positions also. The characteristics of an effective communicator, first one, that is adaptability. Adapting our communication style to support the situation. It should have clarity, confidence and assertiveness, constructive feedback, giving and receiving the feedback, emotional intelligence, identifying and managing our emotions as well as other people's emotions, interpersonal skills, that is social skills, which are especially useful in building strong rapports, interpretation of body language, which will help us understand how someone is feeling. Then empathy, open-mindedness, patience, simplifying the complex situations, and even storytelling. Some of the techniques to improve for better verbal communication. Communication skills, which means that we can develop and improve it. Here are some techniques which can refine our skills, like the power of the mind. Often we talk while we think, but this can reduce our credibility, because what we are saying is usually meaningless and we come across as nervous. Much of presence is about stillness, listening, providing a thoughtful response. When answering a question and while engaging in conversation, keep following the formula in mind and reply in short, clear, and concise way, like think, breathe, and then speak. So do not just say the first thing that comes to mind. Instead, be thoughtful and concentrate on the meaning of what we wish to communicate. When speaking, understand exactly what message we are trying to get across. If you are unclear about our message, then our audience will not understand either. Second one, positive visualization. This practice is employed by athletes before a race. They visualize themselves winning and focus on this idea intensely. This gives them a mental boost, which translates into a physical one. We can use this technique before a big presentation. Imagine standing on a podium in front of hundreds of people, or imagine delivering our speech and the audience looking engaged. Imagine finishing up our speech and the audience applause. Repeating this several times and immersing ourselves in the event and the emotions will build effective communication skill. Third one, keep our audience in mind. We must understand our audience to communicate effectively. By having this understanding, we can tailor our communication to suit them so our messages has the most impact. To develop this skill, we must imagine ourselves in the audience position. Think of their demographic and shared characteristics, or we can ask why are they attending, what do they want to find out, or what level are they in terms of knowledge and experience. Active listening is when we listen beyond the words being spoken. We understand the message being communicated. During conversations, a lot of the time the listener is thinking about how they are going to respond rather than concentrating on what the speaker is saying. By really listening, we can provide a more thoughtful answer that takes the speaker's thoughts and opinions into account. Be empathetic. To be empathetic means that we can identify and understand others' emotion, that is imagining ourselves in someone's else position. Understanding how people feel will help us communicate our thoughts and ideas in a way that makes sense to others, and it helps us understand others when they communicate. Body language and posture. Our posture has a greatest impact on our communication. The impression we have on others is split approximately like the body, which comes as the visualization, that is about 55%, our voice or our the sound, that around 38%, and words or the content, which are about 7%. The folded arms or crossed legs, hunched shoulder, hands in pocket, looking down. These are just some of the protective measures that make us feel safer and should be avoided when giving a presentation or speech. Appearing relaxed make us exert dominance and authority. If politicians speak, we might have noticed how relaxed and confident they appear, talking slowly and making the positive body movements. Use our arms to emphasize a point and illustrate the message. A seventh one, that is centering. When a person is centered, they are balanced and relaxed. Getting used to placing our attention in our center of gravity will help us achieve an open, relaxed posture and make room for deeper and freer breath. Think about the place half between the front and back of our body and just above our waist. Stand with our feet a shoulder length apart and let our arms hang loosely by our side. Try and put all our attention at this center before an important meeting or a presentation. It will increase our presence and bring us into the moment. Then breathe deeply to communicate effectively. Every time we think, we breathe. Every time we speak, we breathe. The fact that we breathe subconsciously means we often do not think about it when speaking. When we get nervous, our breathing becomes shallow. Combining this with our overlong sentences, which usually accompany speaking in public, and words begin to trail away at the end. That means maximizing our breath and filling our lungs when speaking is very important for building effective communication skills. It makes us sound influential. Remember to pause for emphasis, pause to take in a breath, and pause to allow our messages to sink in. Then friends or colleagues. This is a great way to get detailed feedback on how we are performing. Set ourselves a task, ask our colleagues or friends to observe us and then give feedback. Giving and receiving feedback is a very powerful process, but needs to be handled sensitively and should not follow some of the points or guidelines, like be specific on what we need to improve. We have to provide evidence on where they can change. Give feedback on any emotional impact we felt and be constructive. Provide any three positive and any two areas to improve. Listen and should not interrupt. Do not interrupt. Act on the feedback straight away if possible. Then solo with a video camera or voice recorder. This I prefer for many of my students. By using a video camera or voice recorder, we can work on our oral communication style. Work with short sections. For example, if you need to make a presentation, start by working on our opening. That is the starting, how to start a presentation. Perform and watch, listen back several times until we feel we have developed what we have done sufficiently to move on. Now, friends and friendships. If you define, friendships are voluntarily interpersonal relationships between two people who are usually equal and who mutually influence one another. Friendships are distinct from romantic relationships, family relationships, acquaintances, and are often described as more vulnerable relationships than others due to their voluntary nature, the availability of other friends, and the fact that they lack the social and institutional support of other relationships. A friend is someone we can talk to, someone we can depend on for help and emotional support, and someone we can participate in activities and have fun with. Types of friendship. Although friendship vary across the lifespan, three types of friendships are common in adulthood. That is reciprocal friendship, associative, as well as receptive friendship. Reciprocal friendship, these are the solid interpersonal relationship between people who are equals with a shared sense of loyalty and commitment. Reciprocal friendships are what most people would consider ideal for best friendships. Associative friendship, these are mutually pleasurable relationship between acquaintances or associates that, although positive, lack the commitment of reciprocal friendship. For example, a friendship may develop between two people who work out at a same gym. They may spend time with each other in this setting a few days, a week, or months, or even a year, but their friendship might end if the gym closes or one personal schedule changes. The third one, that is receptive friendship. This relationship is more like that of a supervisor subordinate. In some cases, like a mentoring relationship, both parties can be benefited from this type of relationship. Now, friends and friendship, how it impacts the education. Uh, Meeting a stranger uh, uh, and sensing something that may inspire us to invite them into our circle is not always easy. Students enter college or university from diverse backgrounds and circumstances. The traditional age, the learners start right out of high school. Others may be experiencing transition in their career. Still others enroll in higher education after raising a family. As they pursue their degrees, adjustment to new circumstances, struggling to make friends, finding their way in a new environment, integrating into classroom and campus cultures can result in a shift in social connection. Such shifts often result in a distancing from old friendships and the need to create a new ones. A social being, we have a fundamental need to be included and to have close relationships, and such a absence can be unnatural for any individual. A student may find it easier to develop friends in face-to-face learning environments than in virtual or online setting. With fewer contacts and less personal interactions, opportunities for new students to make friends or maintain existing friendship may be challenging. College is a unique and often once in a lifetime experience and should be enjoyed to the fullest. Supportive interactions with the friends can influence overall academic development, knowledge acquisition, self-esteem. Having valuable college friendships during our undergraduate or graduate career can also result in improving social life, a successful, satisfying education, and sought after career opportunities. Encouraging educational experiences that promote friendship can include collaborating with others on group assignments, discussing opinion on course content with other students, socializing with someone from a different ethnic or racial group. A culture of friendship is promoted when students engage in activities that bring them together. The friendship can be developed by a friendly behavior such as identifying self to other students and allowing them to reciprocate, using open-ended questions to obtain information about each other while maintaining eye contact and smiling, assigning pairs or small groups to work on a classroom projects to develop bonds with other students, offering support during difficult circumstances and extending encouragement to each other. Now, friendship and friends, the value of relationship and communication, how to develop friendship or developing friendship. Throughout our life, we will engage in an ongoing process of developing friendship. Research suggests that we develop our friendship through a series of 6 steps, mainly. While we may not follow these 6 steps in the exact order in all our relationships, these steps help us understand how we develop a friendship. They are the role limiter interaction, first one. In this step, role limited interaction, we interact with others based on our social roles. For example, when we meet a new person in our class, the interaction centers around our role as a student. Communication is characterized by a focus on a superficial rather than personal topic. In this step, we engage in limited self-disclosure and rely on scripts and stereotypes. When two first-time freshmen meet in an introductory course, they start up a conversation and interact according to the roles they play in the context of their initial communication. They begin a conversation because They sit near each other in a class and discuss how much they like or dislike aspects of the course. The second one, that is friendly relationships. This stage is characterized by a communication that moves beyond initial role as the participants begin to interact with one another to see if there are common interests as well as an interest to continue getting to know one another. As the students spend more time together and have casual conversation, they may realize a wealth of shared interest. They realize that both were traveling from far distances to go to college and understood each other's struggle with missing their families. Each of them also loves athletics, especially, say, example, playing kabaddi. The development of this friendship occurs as they identified with each other's as more than classmates. They saw each other as individuals of the same age with similar goals, ambitions, and interests. Moreover, as one of them studied science and the other studies commerce, they appreciate the differences as well as similarities in their collegiate pursuits. Moving towards friendship. In this stage, that is the third stage, we make moves to promote a more personalized friendship. They may begin in a meeting outside of the setting in which the relationship started and begin increasing the levels of self-disclosure. Self-disclosure enables new friends to form bonds of trust. When the students enter this stage, it is right before one joins this sports club on their college campus. As he or she starts participates and meetings, he or she realized this would be something fun for him or her, and the classmate to their classmate to do together. So he or she invites his or her classmate along. Fourth one, that is nascent friendship. In nascent friendship, the individual committed to spending more time together. They also may start using the term friend to refer to each other as opposed to a person in my chemistry class or a person in my science class or this guy I work with. Okay, the interactions extend beyond the initial role as a participant, work out their own private communication rules and norms. For example, they may start calling or texting regularly on reserving certain times and activities for each other, such as going or evening run together. As time goes on, the students start texting each other more frequently just to tell each other a funny story that happened during the day, to make plans for going out to eat, or to plan for meeting at the gym to work out. A stabilized friendship. In this stage, friends take each other for granted as friends, but not in a negative way. Because the friendship is solid, they assume each other will be in their lives. There is assumption of continuity. The communication in this stage is also characterized by a sense of trust, as levels of self disclosure increase and each person feels more comfortable revealing parts of him or herself to the other. This stage can continue indefinitely throughout a lifetime. The friends met when they were freshmen in college. After finishing college, some years later, they moved to separate regions for higher studies. While they are sad to move away from one another, they know the friendship will continue. They continue to be the best friend, that is the stabilized friends. Then warning friendship. As we know, friendship do not always have a happy ending. Many friendship come to an end. Friendship may not simply come to an abrupt end. Many times there are stages that show a decline of a friendship, which a research indicate ending of a friendship is summed by this step, that is warning friendship. Perhaps the relationship is too difficult to sustain over large geographic distances, or sometimes people change and grow in different directions and have little in common with old friends. Sometimes friendship rules are violated to a degree beyond repair. We spoke earlier of trust as a component of friendship. One common rule for trust is that if we tell friends a secret, they are expected to keep it as a secret. If that rule is broken and a friend continually breaks our trust by telling our secret to us, others, we are likely to stop thinking of them as our friends. Now, friendship across the lifespan. As we transition from the life stage such as the adolescence, early adulthood, and later life adulthood, the friendship, different type of friendship will come across. Adolescence begins with, with the onset of puberty, that is teenage years, and lasts through the teen years. We typically make our first voluntary close social relationship during adolescence as cognitive and emotional skills are developed. At this time, our friendship are usually with others of the same age, grade in school, gender and race, and friendship typically have similar attitudes about academics and similar values. These early friendships allow us to test our interpersonal skills, which affects the relationships we will have later in life. For example, emotional processing, empathy, self-disclosure, and conflict become features of adolescent friendship in new ways and must be managed. Those who do not form satisfying relationships during this time may miss out on opportunities for developing communication competency, leading to lower performance at work or school and higher rates of depression. The transition to college marks a move from adolescence to early adulthood and opens new opportunities for friendship and challenges in dealing with the separation from hometown friends. Second one, that is early adulthood. Early adulthood encompasses the time from around 18 to 29 years of age. And although not every person in this age group goes to college, most of the research on early adult friendship focused on college students. Those who have an opportunity to head to college will likely find a canvas for exploration and experimentation with various life and relational choices, relatively free from the emotional time and financial constraints of starting their own family that may come later in life. As we transition from adolescence to early adulthood, we are still formulating our understanding of relational process, but people report that their friendship are more intimate than the one they had in adolescence. During this time, friends provide important feedback on self-concept, career, romantic and or sexual relationships, and civic, social, political, and extracurricular activities. The third one, that is adulthood. Adult friendship span a large period than the previous life stages discussed as adulthood encompasses the period from 30 to 65 years old. The exploration that occurs for most middle class people in early adulthood give way to less opportunity for friendship in adulthood. As many in this period they will settle to their own career, they nourish long-term relationship and have children of their own. These new aspects of life bring more time constraints and interpersonal and task obligations. And with these obligations comes an increased desire for stability and continuity. Adult friendship tend to occur between people who are similar in terms of career position, race, age, partner, status, class, and educational level. This is partly due to the narrowed social networks people join as they become more educated and attain higher career positions. Therefore, finding friends through religious affiliations, neighborhood, work, or civic engagement is likely to result in similarity between friends. Later life adulthood. Friendship in later life adulthood, which begins in one's 60s, often a remnant of previous friendship and friendship patterns. Those who have typically had a gregarious social life will continue to associate with friends if physically and mentally able, and those who relied primarily on partner, family, or limited close friends will have more limited but perhaps equally rewarding interactions. Friendships that have extended from adulthood or earlier are often old or best. Friendship that often look into each other's shared past. However, the biological aging and the social stereotypes and stigma associated with the later life and aging begin to affect communication patterns. Now, friends and friendship, the relation for better or worsening of life. Our health choices, our health choices are constantly influenced by our friends, both consciously or unconsciously. We often think that self-control comes from within. Yet many of our actions depend just as much on our friends and family like ourselves. Those we surround ourselves with will have the power to make us fatter or healthy, or drink more alcohol or quit alcohol, care less about the environment, or vice versa. This is not simply peer pressure in which we deliberately act in a certain way to fit in with the group. Instead, it is largely unconscious. Beneath our awareness, our brain is constantly picking up on cues from the people around us to inform our behavior, and the consequences can be for better or worsening of life. Now, understanding the basic instincts of life, the ability to adapt physically and mentally to a changing world, kept humans alive while other species gradually died off. However, these survival mechanisms that can help us can also work against us if we don't understand and anticipate their presence. It is not surprising that the average person will have some psychological reactions in a survival situation. The basic instincts, which include fear, anxiety, anger, and frustration, depression, loneliness, boredom, and guilt. So, first one, fear. Fear is our emotional response to dangerous circumstances that we believe that the potential to cause death, injury, or illness. For the person trying to survive, fear can have a positive function if it encourages him to be cautious in situations where recklessness could result in injury. Unfortunately, fear can also immobilize a person. It can cause him to become so frightened that he fails to perform activities essential for survival. Each individual must train himself not to be overcome by these fears. Ideally, through realistic training, we can acquire the knowledge and skills needed to increase our confidence and thereby manage our fears. Second one, that is anxiety. Associated with the fear is anxiety, because it is natural for us to be afraid. It is also natural for us to experience anxiety. Anxiety can be an uneasy, apprehensive feeling we get when faced with dangerous situations, either physically, mental, or emotional. If you were never anxious, there would be little motivation to make changes in our lives. The person in a survival setting reduces his anxiety by performing those tasks that will ensure him coming through or ordeal alive. As he reduce his anxiety, the person is also bringing under control the source of that anxiety, his fear. In this form, anxiety is good. However, anxiety can also have a devastating impact. Anxiety can overwhelm a person to the point where he becomes easily confused and has difficulty in thinking. Once this happens, it becomes more and more difficult for him to make good judgments and sound decisions. To survive, the individual must learn techniques to calm his anxieties and keep them in the range where they help or hurt. The next one, third one, that is anger and frustration. Frustration arises when a person is continually thwarted in his attempts to reach a goal. The goal of survival is to stay alive until we can reach help, or until help can reach us. To achieve this goal, the person must complete some tasks with minimal resources. It is inevitable in trying to do these tasks that something will go wrong, that something will happen beyond the survivor's control, and that with one's life at stake, every mistake is magnified in terms of its importance. Thus, sooner or later, survivors will have to cope with the frustration when a few or their plans run into trouble. One outgrowth of this frustration is anger. There are many events in a survival situation that can frustrate or anger a person. Getting lost, damaged, or forgotten equipment, the weather, inhospitable terrain, enemy patrols, and physical limitations are just a few sources of frustration and anger. Frustration and anger encourage impulsive reactions, irrational behavior, poorly throughout decisions, and in some instances and I quit attitude. People sometimes avoid doing something they can't master. If the person can harness and properly channel the emotional intensely associated with anger and frustration, he can productively act as he answers the challenges of survival. If the person does not properly focus his angry feeling, he can waste much energy in activities that do little to further either his chances of survival or the chances of those around him. Then next one, that is a depression. It would be a rare person indeed who would not get sad, at least momentarily, when faced with the privation of survival. As this sadness deepens, we label the feeling depression. Depression is closely linked with the frustration and anger. The frustrated people becomes angrier as he failed to reach his goal. If the anger does not help the person to succeed, then the frustration level goes even higher. A destructive cycle between anger and frustration continues until the person becomes worn down physically, emotionally, and mentally. When a person reaches this point, he starts to give up, and his focus shifts from what can I do to there is nothing I can do. Depression is an expression of this hopeless feeling. There is nothing wrong with being sad as we temporarily think about our loved ones and remember what life is like back in civilization or the world. Such thoughts can give us the desire to try harder and live one more a day. On the other hand, if we allow ourselves to sink into a depressed state, then it can sap all our energy and, more importantly, our will to survive. Each individual must resist succumbing to depression. Fifth one, that is loneliness and boredom. Humans are social animals, which means that as human beings, they enjoy the company of others. Very few people want to be alone all the time. As we are aware, there is a distinct chances of isolation in a survival setting, which is not bad. Loneliness and boredom can bring to the surface qualities we thought only others had. The extent of our imagination and creativity may surprise us. When required to do so, we may discover some hidden talents and abilities. Most of all, we may tap into a reservoir of inner strength and fortitude we never knew we had. Conversely, loneliness and boredom can be other sources of depression. As a person surviving alone or with others, we must find ways to keep our mind productively occupied. Additionally, we must develop a degree of self-sufficiency. We must have faith in our capability to go it alone. Then last one, that is guilt. The circumstances leading to our being in a survival setting are sometimes dramatic and tragic. It may be the result of an ancient or military mission where there was a loss of life. Perhaps we were the only or one of a few survivors. While naturally relieving to alive, we simultaneously may be mourning the death of others who were less fortunate. It is not uncommon for survivors to feel guilty about being spared from death while others were not. This feeling, when used positively, has encouraged people to try harder to survive within the belief they were allowed to live for some greater purpose of life. Sometimes survivor tried to stay alive so that they could carry on the work of those killed. Whatever reasons we give ourselves, do not let guilt feeling prevent us from living. The one who had abandoned their chances to survive accomplished nothing. Such an act would be the greatest tragedy. Now, changing health behavior through social engineering. Uh, Much behavioral change occurs not through behavioral change programs, but social engineering. Social engineering involves modifying the environment in ways that affect people's ability to practice a particular health behavior. These measures are called positive because they do not require an individual to take a personal action. For example, wearing seatbelt in an active measure that an individual must take to control possible injury from an automobile accident, whereas the airbag, which is inflate automatically on impact, represent a passive measure. Now, the many health behavior which are already determined by social engineering, for example, banning the use of certain drugs such as heroin and cocaine, and regulating the disposal of toxic waste, and are the example of health measures that have been mandated by legislation. Then both smoking and alcohol consumption are legally restricted to a particular circumstances and age groups. Requiring a vaccination for school entry has led to more than 90% of children receiving most of the vaccination they needed. And many times social engineering solution to health problems are more successful than individual ones. So for example, we could urge parents to have their children vaccinated against the major childhood disorders, but requiring immunization for school entry has been very successful. Lowering the speed limit has had far more impact on death and disability from motor vehicle accidents. Raising the drinking age from 18 to 21 is more successful in reducing alcohol-related vehicular fatalities. So that's about my talk on this particular topic. It is available in my YouTube channel, My Intuition. Please do subscribe my YouTube channel, My Intuition, to support my effort. Like the videos and share to maximum. I thank you very much for watching this video, and have a nice day.